Welcome to the Technology Pulse podcast, hosted by DALY Computers, providing comprehensive technology solutions to the public and private sectors for more than 35 years. Visit www.daly.com to learn more. Today's episode is brought to you by ViewSonic, providing excellence in visual experience by combining products, solutions, and ecosystem development. And now here's your host, Rick from DALY.
Welcome to the Technology Pulse podcast. It's Rick from DALY once again, and today I am pleased to have with me Chris Grizanti and Jessica Warren from ViewSonic. Chris and Jessica, welcome to the podcast.
Hey,
Thanks,
Rick.
Rick.
Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Certainly. So one thing, just for those of you who may not have joined us, we just had ViewSonic at our DALY Technology Showcase, and they were set up there. And that's when I finally got these two to agree to be on the podcast with me, because I said, I really see a great story that we could tell here, and I'm so thrilled to have you with us. So I want to start out by have you introduce yourselves. First of all, just tell me who you are, what role you play, how long you've been with ViewSonic, and then let's go into the ViewSonic story.
Thanks, Rick, for having us. My name is Jessica Warren. I do the education for all of Virginia, Maryland, DC, Delaware, and West Virginia for ViewSonic. So I cover all of the schools, all of the private schools, anything to do with education for those states.
My name's Chris Grizanti. I've been at ViewSonic for 2.5 years. Previous life, I was in distribution. I'm the Northeast regional rep for ViewSonic. So DALY is one of my accounts, and I'm very happy to work with you guys and had a lot of success in the past, kind of looking to grow in 2024 together.
All right. Thank you both. Now, let's talk about ViewSonic, because again, this is a name that, people may be very familiar with, and there may be others that aren't familiar with. So tell me what ViewSonic does as far as it goes with DALY's customers. How do you serve the public sector?
So with ViewSonic, we've been around for about over 30 years. ViewSonic originally started out as a monitor manufacturer. We've currently held a top spot in that market and in that vertical for a long time. And years ago, we merged into the interactive whiteboarding space, interactive panel space for education, for corporate, for different verticals on there. And now we are the number 3 in the world for interactive displays for your classrooms. As far as ViewSonic goes, we've now also merged into the large format. So we sell up to a 216-inch panel now. So there's a lot of different industries that use ViewSonic, including healthcare, education, government, and everything has basically just kind of gone up from where it started at. Everything has gotten bigger, everything has gotten more interactive, and everything has also gotten more affordable.
And then on top of that, so not only is ViewSonic big in the education space, we're also kind of really focusing on becoming part of a software company too, and our back-end software for the education, we can kind of talk a little bit more about. But on top of the education, we also do, LCD monitors, 4K, different ports, USB-C, USB-A, RJ45 docks. So there's a lot of different types of monitors that we sell in the field for, different needs for end users that have specific ports or specific layouts that they need. ViewSonic will have an option for them. We also have projectors, the laser projectors we're moving towards. We do commercial displays as well. So a lot of 24/7 usage, anything that needs marketing, campus communication. We also do touch displays for traveling monitors for in the field, gaming monitors. And we have recently done DV-LED with video walls for like auditoriums and larger spaces that would want to view either a concert or something going on. It can come on a cart too, where you can move it around or position it where you need to be. It's, and it's similar technology to what I don't know if you've seen the new Sphere out in Vegas, but it's just those little bulbs. Ours is for indoor use, auditoriums, large spaces, hallways. It's kind of build it as what size you want, little square by square tiles that kind of go hand in hand. You kind of position it to where you need it or what the best fit in that area is for you. So there's a lot of compatibility that goes into it, and, architecture and building it. It's definitely something that is the next new thing that I think people are getting into as far as larger screens, and as far as like servicing the public visually, like making sure they can see things, especially people who are in the back and things like that. Direct view LED is going to be, the next foot forward, I think, too, with some of that.
And I could see that having a lot of use, particularly, when you come to like the K-12 spaces where you have those large auditoriums, but even like in the higher education spaces, or even in some of the, the larger like government buildings, because having those video walls and having those video displays, and again, it could be anything from, you're in the college's sports arena for basketball, and being able to have that video wall and have that video board, that type of technology, to even like when you walk into some of these larger government buildings, and you have right now, they'll have just a big blank wall. They'll have, maybe one of those old stand signs next to it as far as where you want to go. But even being able to put it out there, and again, having it be everything from aesthetically pleasing to helping with wayfinding. If you're looking for this, you go here. If you're looking for this, you go here. Welcome, that sort of thing. I could see that really having a lot of different applications.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And in the higher ed space especially, and some in the K-12 space, one thing we hear a lot of is that their events are all over the campus. Their events are not always held in the same spot. And so for these large format monitors, they can't really wall mount them because they may only need it in that space once or twice a year, but they could use it in different parts of the campus every week. And so we've made a 135-inch panel that'll fit in any elevator. And it takes two people to set it up, mostly because of the case that comes off of it on the outside. And it's already on a cart. And so they can just pack it up. It takes about 20 minutes at the most, wheel it to wherever it's needed, set it up, which only takes about 10 or 15 minutes. And then when they're done with it, they can put it back in its protected case and put it back in storage until whenever it's ready again. And so the versatility of that, and just the being able to use it anywhere, is a huge hit. And it makes it a lot more cost effective and a lot more easily justifiable for these colleges and K-12 districts, because they don't need it every day, but they need to make the most of it.
There's kind of a saying that if you view it, we do it.
I love that. If you view it, we do it.
That's something that I've heard actually some people say with ViewSonic. So it's kind of stuck with me, kind of carried it.
So first of all, thank you both for that introduction and that background, because again, I think there are a lot of people who may be familiar with the name ViewSonic, but again, is sort of in one very specific area, kind of like with DALY. DALY, a lot of people always known us about, your laptops and desktops and monitors and keyboards and mice, and you grow and you evolve as a business, and you start taking on those additional product offerings. So same thing with ViewSonic. What you were just talking about there really shows a lot of different evolution. So Jessica, let me start with you on the education side. What do you think has been like the biggest evolution of ViewSonic, going from, a company that again was really known for producing monitors to what you are today?
Yeah, and I think in the education space, we saw this kind of evolution from just having the desktop monitor to having the projectors to going through multiple different forms of interactive panels to where we're at now. And I think the projector served its purpose for a time. And then the teachers just wanted more collaboration, more interactivity with their students. So now we have up to a 98-inch interactive panel that we can put in a classroom, where they can write on it just like they would an analog whiteboard. They can pull up web pages. They can play a video. It's kind of an all-in-one unit that they can use to teach their students. And not only that in the K-12 space, but also in the higher ed space as well. Because these boards fully integrate with like their Google, their Microsoft accounts, you can run everything from one place. So everything you have on your laptop, you can pull up on your interactive board and show your students, as well as like Google Slides where you can manipulate those, and you can pull up your Google Drives. And so everything works together. And I think the biggest piece of that is that working together that we've seen in education, because the students want to live kind of in those Google Drives, in those OneDrives. And so we're able to utilize all their different technology to bring it together into one.
And that technology integration is really something, because I mean, again, I'm going to date myself a little bit when I go back to my days when I was standing in front of a classroom and we had the projector, you had the big screen there, and so you're showing your PowerPoint slide, but there was no real interactivity. There was no real, we're literally like using the old cellophane projectors where you put the overlay on it and it just stood up there. It was just something very static. So with ViewSonic and these interactive panels, it really opens a lot up for how creative teachers can be when they're pulling up stuff like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And the biggest part about that too is that they can create their whole entire lesson plans while they're sitting at home in their pajamas on their couch drinking their coffee. They don't have to necessarily do it like the old school ways, like where when I was in school and they had to write it as they go and then erase it. And then the next class, they're having to write it again. So they can pull it up, they can show it, they can save it if they want to. They can X out of it. They can use it for their next class. They can even use it for the next school year. It's always going to be there. So efficiency wise, this brings a huge level of efficiency to these teachers because they're able to create these lessons and then use them over and over again in the classrooms.
And they can also make changes really on the fly based on the feedback, correct? Because again, as you're looking at this, it's not just a static image that you're putting up on the screen. You're having people ask questions about this, so you know that you want to circle this area, or you know that you want to highlight this text, right?
Exactly. And you can highlight those texts. For example, you have an immersive reader in there that you can use to highlight different parts of the sentences. So you can highlight all the nouns, all the pronouns. You can change it into different languages. And you can do all of those things without having to erase anything or write anything. It's just all there for you.
Wow. And I have to say that language capability, you sit there and you think that necessarily isn't necessary. You sit there and think, well, this isn't necessary for us to be able to translate in other languages. But even this week, I just learned my older son had a classmate who came from a Latin American country and speaks English, but his English is not as good as his Spanish. And so to be able to, if you have that one student in the classroom, to be able to sit there and say, oh, well, this would be great because maybe I can help raise the level of understanding for this one student and be able to do that on the fly. I mean, that's not a capability that you would have even thought of 10 years ago. It's amazing how far the technology has come.
Oh, it has. And I remember when I was in school, which that was quite some time ago, but when I was in school, we had to read everything out of a book. And me as a student, I had a very hard time learning that way, where my children are learning through like the interactive ways, and they're able to grasp those things a whole lot easier with seeing pictures and being able to manipulate those things and show on a board a X and a Y plane and be able to draw a line and show them an actual picture of it. So I think knowledge is being retained in a lot different way, but I think it's a lot easier way to retain that.
Excellent. Now, Chris, you've been sitting there quietly, and
Yeah.
and we appreciate that. We've been talking a lot about the education space, but I recognize that ViewSonic obviously has a foothold in other areas than education, and obviously when it comes to DALY, alongside education, our bread and butter is state and local governments. How has the technology evolved again from just the ViewSonic is a monitor provider to where you are today when it comes to other areas in the public sector?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And ViewSonic is just ever evolving in terms of the monitors and the commercial displays and even projectors. With a lot of the monitors, they're beefing up USB ports. They're eliminating docking stations for PCs by creating a charging port within the monitor for USB-C. So you can have multiple monitors, connected to just your device. On top of that, it will be charging it as well. That's just an area of they're kind of being able to cut down on some of the hardware that you have on your desk and making it a little bit more cleaner. They also going from 1080 to 4K. Soon they're probably going to be advancing on that as well. They do have a higher resolution. Also entered the gaming market with both touchscreen and non-touchscreen. They have 16-inch displays, 22 inches, up to I think it's 24 and 27. Just a bunch of different options in terms of accessibility and touchscreens and remoteness. Really, I guess, for any solution that an end user needs or specifically wants, if they have a certain amount of ports they need, or they need a specific port in a specific area on the monitor, ViewSonic can facilitate that, or usually has something in the barn that they can fall back to that will fit that solution. So, you walk around a lot of offices and government buildings and hotels, and you'll see ViewSonic on the back of their monitors that they use. We're everywhere. They have been. I think it was 1987. I think Jess was. They've been around for 30 something years. So an ever evolving monitor that is kind of innovative too. They're first to the market when something kind of drops. Yeah, I would say that the big thing comes in as far as gaming and the remote travel laptop screens that we have that fit with your laptops, and then the docking monitors with different resolutions and just the ports that you need, really kind of all inclusive to the overall solution that people need.
Chris, you brought up two things that I really want to talk about. And first of all is gaming. A lot of people think of gaming. I have a gamer. My younger son is a gamer. I swear, if he is more than 36 inches off of a computer screen at any time during the day, he feels his head's going to explode. With that said, I mean, a lot of people think of the gaming in the negative connotations, but both of you, really there's areas for gaming these days, both in education and outside of education, that are really starting to take hold when it comes to esports. So first I'm going to go with Chris, and we're going to stick with you, talking about the state and local government, how they have the agencies and they have, the youth agencies, where you get a lot of these folks that, again, esports now are giving scholarships at the college level. So it's almost as important as junior football and, little league baseball, in the fact that it could lead to a path where these students are going to be able to further their education. So keeping up in that gaming space, like you talked about, it's about resolution, because you need that resolution, but you also need speed, right?
Yep. Yes, for sure. So that's response time, speed, resolution, that kind of all goes into the gaming aspect. And myself, I'm a gamer, so I totally understand those specs that people want, and they want the fastest, quickest, and highest resolution when they're gaming. And exactly to what you said, it's kind of become a very competitive landscape in terms of gaming, where, anything from high schools to colleges are building gaming arenas. They're advertising to gamers. They're trying to bring people in through gaming, with a nice arena, and you could have a stage with multiple displays broadcasting what the gamers are seeing on their monitors. I think ESPN actually uses ViewSonic's gaming elite monitors when they go competitive, and some of the shows actually that they have on TV that you see use the ViewSonic gaming monitor, the ViewSonic elite monitor. And that's got, on the back of it, it's got lights, kind of lights up as you game. So it's got a bunch of additional features on top of it. So not just on the screen, but also the gaming monitor itself has features that draw in gamers that they want to see and, reflect back to what they're playing on screen. So, with that being said, circling back to what these schools are doing and how they're drawing people in, like you said, there's scholarships, there's money to be made for kids, and there's avenues and paths to education in school. I think, even some of the schools I saw where they had a Fortnite team and they have online gaming teams and Call of Duty teams. So there's definitely different aspects to the gaming, but at the end of the day, the gaming community is super super excited about the monitors and the technology and the response time and the resolution. And ViewSonic's been a big part of that too.
And then Jessica, are you also seeing that kind of spike in the interest in e-gaming, when it comes to the education side of things?
Yeah, definitely. The esports arenas in all of my states, there are so many schools that are just starting out. So they're kind of at that ground level of their esports leagues. I've heard from a lot of schools that they have theirs up and running, but they're just having trouble finding people to play. So I think that's a great market for us to be in. One thing we've actually done is we have an esports kind of guru on our team, and he actually can come on site and do kind of a build out for your own arena. And we have packages. So it's like your monitor, we've partnered with different CPU companies, different furniture companies to kind of get that full setup for the esports teams. So I think it's a great thing that's going on in these schools. My son is a gamer as well. And if he could go to college on a scholarship for gaming, I am all for it.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to be pretty much the only way I'm going to get my son to go to college is if he's able to do so on an esports scholarship. But
Yes.
but again, at the time when he first came to me and said I'm going to be a gamer and a YouTuber 2 years ago, I said you can't make a living at that, and now I'm like I can't really say that anymore. So along with gaming, the one other thing that I wanted to point out was digital signage. Because digital signage, I mean, a lot of people just don't realize how important it is and how this has evolved. Because, again, Chris, you were talking before about like the hotels and the big conference areas where you used to see somebody running down the hall and unscrewing the glass so that they could put the next sign in for the next thing. And now everything can just be controlled from a centralized location where a problem like DALY is spelled with lowercase letters instead of uppercase letters. So we have to have them make that change. But you don't realize those things need to be on all the time. And that's just one example of digital signage. I mean, so what else are you seeing as far as new trends in digital signage when it comes to the public sector?
A lot of it, yeah, is just people are just moving away from the static sign, is what you mentioned, is that old, like getting in there and changing it monthly with your hands. 24/7 usage displays. A lot of it is being controlled back end too, which is, where a lot of IT managers and IT directors like this conversation. They are able to kind of control the devices through ViewSonic software. They can power the devices on and off, broadcast to them. So there's different options that they can do on the back end that can help facilitate their needs to campus communication, having slides play throughout the day. So it's kind of like an all-in-one solution. It's not just the display you're getting. You're able to use ViewSonic's software and then promote things properly and not have to change things manually with your hands. You can use it from your device from one central location on multitude of displays if you have.
Yeah, so in the education space and as well as corporate government, all different sectors, the biggest thing with our digital signage is that you get free access to what we call Manager, which is like the back end software to basically manage all of that digital signage in one place. So one of the things we're doing in the education side is we're taking like that 10 to 10 minutes in between classes, and we're using their interactive panels, and we're using that for digital signage for that time period. So during that time of the class changes, we can run through the announcements, and that way they don't have to take up class time at the end of the day to give out those announcements. We can actually do it during the class changes. A lot of times I see what happens in like K-12 and in higher ed where you'll see TVs all over the campus and they're either off or the announcements are out of date, or they're using a thumb drive to update them and nobody has gone around and gathered up all the thumb drives and updated those. So with our software and our technology, you're able to do that on the back end all at one time. So you can even have different grade levels as different announcements. You can also use those for like emergency broadcasting. You can stream it from a web page. You can stream it from like a YouTube channel, things like that. So you could actually use it for a lot more than just your announcements. You could use it for like your morning shows as well.
Wow. And again, no idea how all of this innovation just sort of happened. But now that it's out there and it's available, I can't see how some of these school systems and government agencies, I can't see how they're doing without this type of stuff. You have to think that when it comes to the ViewSonic solutions, you would have to think that they're fairly easy to be integrated into an ecosystem, correct?
Yeah, one of the things we do at ViewSonic is we like to make everything easy. So this back-end software that we've been talking about, it's super easy to use. It's just intuitive. We talk in K-12 a lot about having somebody in the office being over that signage part. It's just super easy to use that anybody can go in there and kind of pick it up. I don't know if you've ever tried to use softwares like Adobe Premiere or different softwares like that, Hyperwall, where you need a college degree to run it. And this is definitely the opposite end of that. This is just easy to use, simple. We give you exactly what you'll need. We don't put anything kind of fancy on there. We just want it to be simplified for the end user.
And then, so you talk about simplifying things for the end user, but it's also the integrator. It's also the system admin. It's also the procurement person. I mean, talk to us a little bit about what ViewSonic offers when it comes to, again, somebody who wants to come and implement one of your solutions, whether it's an interactive display, digital signage, one of those really large displays, putting that in an auditorium. I mean, what type of support does ViewSonic offer for the whole package from like cradle to grave?
So everything with ViewSonic comes with like a 3-year warranty out of the box. Education gets a 5-year warranty. So those warranties come with it. The product itself, we offer a full solution. So everything is kind of there with it, from the panel to the mount or the cart to go on it, Wi-Fi, the back-end software to manage those, and even access to online like forums and different things so you can get all the help you need as far as being able to use the panel. ViewSonic also offers a full team of trainers that can come on site and do your training for your teachers and staff. So it's a full solution that we talk about sometimes, how we want to make sure that you have every single thing you need for that product.
Excellent. So as we start to wrap things up here, what do you see coming down the horizon? We talked a lot about the innovation that's happened over the last several years. What do we see coming down the pike that could really whet the appetite of some folks who are hearing some really good stuff and they're thinking, okay, so where do you go from here?
Yeah, so in the education side, the biggest thing that's coming kind of down the line right now is the Google EDLA platform. And that platform allows Google schools to be able to manage their interactive panels directly through their Google console. So they can manage it just like they would their current Chromebooks, their Google licensing, everything. They have access to the Google Play Store, and they also have access to just the full like Chrome environment. So if your teachers live in Google Slides, that's on the board. You'd be able to pull up your Google Slides. You're logged in under your Google login. Everything is right there. It makes it crazy simple. And it's such an effective and efficient way to bring your teachers into new technology in an environment that they already are accustomed to and already comfortable with.
And then, on top of that, with the gaming and the remote workforce, I would say the touchscreen laptops that we have, the 16 inches, the 22 inches are going to be a real big hit. They're real sleek, slim. You can put them in your backpack. You can work from the beach. You can work from the pool. You can work, anywhere really that you are with an extra monitor. So you can be just as productive as being in the office as then you are on the road. So that's another area I think ViewSonic is going to be focused on, is just travel and touchscreens and providing the end users with the proper ports and resolution that they need.
Excellent. Chris and Jessica, thanks so much for joining us on the Technology Pulse. It was a pleasure having you. We want to remind people that anything that we've talked about today, any questions you might have, all you need to do is reach out to your DALY rep.
Thank you so much, Rick. And I look forward to working you guys for a long time.
Yes. Thanks, Rick. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Technology Pulse podcast produced by DALY. Before we go, we would like to remind you of a few legal considerations. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of DALY or its leadership. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide legal, financial, or other professional advice. The content of this podcast is protected by copyright laws and may not be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted without the written permission of DALY Computers Inc. Any products, services, or other references mentioned in this podcast are for informational purposes only, and do not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by DALY. Thank you again for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at marketing@daly.com.